We ready to roll?
Yes, sir.
Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's good
Good
to
morning.
see you all in this way. I hope everyone is well as your family. Like Karen said, our budget has really taken a hit with all 5 of my kids are home, including my adult daughter drove back in from Northwest Arkansas. And I'm thinking about going to Sam's, making one trip to Sam's with full protective equipment on and buying them out of ramen noodles. Only thing we can afford any longer. Hey, and I want to show you, in these trying times, as we've tried to stay distant from one another, I'm sure that many of you have had some interesting work environments, but we have kids that are right below me downstairs now where my office is in school, and they're all on Zoom, and it's quite noisy. And the dogs join them from time to time. So I've now moved my office up to our bedroom, and this has got to be the most interesting desk I've had. But my desk is now a laundry, or what is this? An ironing board. It's really not that bad, y'all. I will do a review on Amazon a little later. It is fully height adjustable. And if I spill anything here, I think it's a little bit water resistant. So if you're looking to move your office, I would recommend you check your ironing board. Potential solution for you. Well, let's get going. I wanted to give just a little update on where we were. I think about 3-4 months ago in a meeting that we had at Mercy. We had said that we were applying for some additional grants and hoping to be able to bring some additional resource to the 100 Families Alliance. And next month, I hope that we can actually give you details about that, but it's looking very promising. And we're in the detail work right now over the next 2 weeks. And the way that it looks like it's coming, it might come out has us very excited. So I can't share with you the details yet because they change daily, but it looks very promising that we'll have something agreed upon by the end of the month. And in our next 100 Families Alliance meeting, we'll be able to tell you what that means. But it will be some additional resource for this group, as well as some resource for, we believe, Crawford County. So, Karen, you want to run through our status? One of the fears that we all had last month as we kind of began our shelter in place was that our families were going to be gravely impacted by both losing jobs and benefits and then maybe some slipping back into some destructive behaviors. And I think we've seen that. The thing that struck me right after our meeting last month was how many people immediately slid into hunger. And so while the work that we all have engaged in together had helped many families get stable, this impacted them quite quickly and negatively. And so I think that's going to be reflected in some of the data. Also, because the courts are closed and many of the other offices are closed, I don't think we've onboarded as many. We're just not meeting as many new people now. So Karen, let's run through this status and then we can have some Q&A maybe afterwards. And then we've got some additional Alliance partner updates.
Yeah. So as of March 31st, there were 152 active families, 369 children are in those families. And we still have all the organizations out there hard at work trying to support them. Somebody probably needs to mute.
Me, sorry.
Okay, that's all right. To reunite their families and.
Hey, and Karen.
Yes.
Wait.
You want me
I'm
to?
sorry.
Will you press record on this?
Yes.
For those that can't attend?
Yes, absolutely. It should be recording, I believe. Let me look real quick.
Hey, it
Yes,
is
it
recording.
shows
Okay,
recording.
all right, thank you. Morning, Heather.
Good morning.
So we have been talking with our families that are in the program, and as you know, a lot of times when crisis hits, it affects those in poverty. It's almost like a multiplier effect. Any crisis that hits an area is those in poverty are very much impacted. And in communities where there are higher poverty rates, such as Sebastian County, we are definitely no different in the fact that these families have been impacted greatly. I mean, we are all impacted, but financially they have been impacted. So first off, while we have over 150 families in the program, typically it's about 50% or so are working towards reunification, and the other half have their children in their home. So of course those two types of families are affected differently. If you're not talking, if you want to go, I actually can mute some people. I'll do that myself as I see the need. And you can unmute yourself anytime you need to. And here's a little trick that I learned just this past week. If you want to just go ahead and mute your line, and then when you speak, you can press the space bar on your computer or laptop, and it will take you off mute just while your space bar is being held down. So it's an interesting little tip. Okay, so I wanted to show you the survey that we did of our families, and this is just to show you, what the families that did respond, and there were 42 families that did respond. The majority of them had their children at home. So the majority that responded had children at home and were during this crisis, taking care of their children, but have protective services cases or preventative cases, and are, trying to, we're already in poverty and in crisis, but now have this additional problem going on. So the next question we asked is if they were working, and we actually find this out every month, but I thought this was a good place to find out whether or not those specific 42 families, whether or not they were working or had been laid off due to COVID-19. So you can see that there was about 21% were not working due to COVID-19, but the majority of them were still working. And there were, some that were actually still actively looking for employment. And I know that for a fact. People are constantly texting our case managers, asking, where they can go to work during this crisis. So I found it, we kind of know this because we know that people that are in low-wage jobs are actually pretty necessary. I think we found that out through this crisis, that they are the ones serving us our drive-through food, or they're working with Amy over at OK Foods, and they're making sure that we have chicken to place on our tables. So they are very essential in our in this environment, and they are working hard. We have a lot of CNAs, so they're working hard right now, and are oftentimes single parents and have to figure out childcare and things like that for their family. So it's not an easy task. We asked about immediate needs. So he's so right. And this was right before the food stamp hit, the big news about, people all of a sudden, actually it didn't even come out in the news. It kind of hit everybody by surprise, but it traveled quickly across the the community that those who had food stamps look at your card because you have a whole bunch more money possibly. So what happened was everyone on food stamps that maybe were working and didn't get the full amount for their family size, all of a sudden had the difference on their food stamp card. And then that's going to continue to happen in April as well. So it's actually, it's a big push, a big help to these families. But at this time, there were a lot of families that had said that they did not have any food, that no food stamps were coming in. We were able to work with CSCDC, Matt Whitson with Arkansas Family Alliance, and others to make sure that families that did not have any food stamps coming in and did not have any way of getting food were delivered food if they needed it delivered, or were given the appropriate information so they could pick up. So we also found that there were a lot of them that needed activities for their children. So that's another thing that we worked on as 100 Families Initiative, a collaborative, is that just 2 days ago, we were able to help those families with specific activities for their children, and provide some special craft kits and scavenger hunts and things like that their kids could keep busy with so that they could do what they needed to do and not go crazy. Because what we want to do is, of course, relieve the stress in the home. This takes me to, what is your greatest fear? So this is one I found really interesting, and this was an open-ended question. So I did not give them choices. I just wanted to see what they came up with. And of course, the virus was number one. A lot of parents would write that they are scared of their children getting sick. They're scared of themselves dying and no one being able to watch their children or take care of them or love them. Just typical, what any of us would be concerned about for our families. The second one was housing, and that probably is not a huge surprise to you. People that are either in very substandard housing right now are feeling that even greater because their children are always home. So those that have, roaches and mice or bed bugs, or, are in just very substandard housing or in a bad neighborhood, they are particularly afraid right now. There's not, an escape like normal for their children. And then also people are just scared they're going to lose their housing because they don't have money. So the third one, which I found really interesting, was they're not being able to see their kids. So we saw that while out of those that responded to the survey, there was a small percentage that didn't have their children with them. Every single one of them, or almost every single one of them, their biggest fear was, I don't get to see my children anymore, or I'm not, and this is really sad because it's true. I mean, the visits are only happening on Zoom, and as you feel the distance right now between us, imagine if that's a 5-year-old on the other side that you're trying to love on as a parent. And so it's a very, very sad time for parents that their children are together and they've been working hard to be reunited. And so one of the things that we want to do for those families, that those parents that are separated from their children right now, is reach out to them and provide them as much support as we can. We do not want people to regress back to whatever it was that caused the children to go into care, whether it was an addiction or something like that. So those negative behaviors we don't want to happen. And I know that Marla over at Guidance Center, I know y'all are super busy trying to help with the mental health needs of our community. We sure appreciate that. And so we're still referring to those as well. Then you'll see the other ones were not having daycare, not being able to pay my bills, not having enough food, and last but not least, work shutting down. I think people's fears of work shutting down have kind of dissipated with the extra unemployment that's on the horizon. But it's still a fear for some. I support strong and thriving families. So this is not National Child Abuse Prevention Month. I just wanted to bring it up because that's it's such a big part of what we do when we reach out and we care for these families and provide them services. Is we are preventing child abuse and neglect and things like that by helping struggling families and parents to deal with their issues and recover from their past hurts and hangups. So, and here we're now down to how things are going. So I just wanted, this is the 100 families clients at intake in February, and this is 100 families clients at intake in March. So what that means is I wanted to show you that the 100 families clients at intake, it's almost identical every single month. So that just means to me it's within 1 or 2 percentage points, maybe 3 percentage points. I wanted to show you that at intake, our families are in crisis, and we can almost guess. We can say, hey, this is what it's going to look like for an average family that comes into our office and wants help either reuniting with their children or keeping their family together. These are the areas of crisis that they are in. And it does not sway a whole lot from month to month as far as how they are at intake. Now, the outcomes, those are what are affected greatly. And so I wanted to show you just, this is a scale of 1 to 5, crisis to thriving. At intake, this was our transportation crisis. We had a few less in transportation crisis, probably at intake, and then but they're just kind of on average it's within a couple of percentage points. We only in employment we had 48% with no income from any source at intake. We had 21% actively using. They were in crisis in that way. 28% had no way to purchase food and no food stamps. And 43% were homeless. So we can kind of know that at intake, we're going to have families that are in crisis in multiple areas. So then I decided I would show you what happened last month. Just as a reminder, you've already seen this, but as of February 29th, our outcomes were great because they usually are. Your crisis goes down greatly. So our employment crisis, we went from 42% being unemployed to only 23%, and 45% were stably employed. So you just see these outcomes are amazing compared to the last slide. So you look at the last slide, that's at intake. Okay, that's the crisis, is that dark red, and it's bad. And then all of a sudden the crisis goes down and that light pink goes up, and then thriving goes up as well. So that's how it happens with clients. Now you look at the one on the bottom, and that's as of March 31st, and we immediately see that COVID-19 has had an impact on our families, particularly in the area of employment. So while our families were employed, as of February 29th, they were employed, all of a sudden they're not anymore. And so while we do have, 31% stably employed, and here's a very interesting thing on the thriving. So we've had families that went to thriving as a result of COVID-19. That's very interesting. It's just because they've been able to get into a little bit higher paying position during this time, or they have been able to get more hours, that kind of thing, because of other people leaving the workforce, right? so the ones that are working are doing better than they were. So they went from maybe working part-time to working full-time, or getting paid more. And then there are those that were working that have gone to not working at all. And this is just another chart to kind of show that impact. I hope you can see it. So we have employment intake, employment as of February 29th, and employment as of March 31st. So you'll see our typical plot area, how people become more stabilized. So right here at intake, it was 32%, and then all of a sudden, oh, we're 45%, yay. People are more stably employed, and then all of a sudden it drops back down due to COVID-19. So we do have families that are unemployed at this time, but then at the same time, we see our thriving just go up. So it's really interesting little phenomenon. I wanted to just show you that we do have families that are working, and we do have families that are stably employed during this time. And one thing that I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go on yet, that I'm a little concerned about is I do have parents that are working right now that are single parents that make less than the unemployment that's being given out. And it's a really sad situation for them. They're having to possibly put themselves at risk right now to work, which is but they don't want to give up their job either. And so it's kind of a strange situation to be in, where if they were to not have their job right now, they would make more money on unemployment than working due to the disaster unemployment. So while we aren't telling people to quit their jobs by any means, we want people to long-term have employment. You can see that might be one of the reasons why there's people leaving their jobs right now. Does anyone have any questions before we go on about the stats?
I do have one question, Karen.
Mm-hmm.
How many answered the survey about what is your greatest fear?
So it was 42 families that answered the survey.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So I wanted to, any other questions? I know I want to get to all of you because I know all of you are doing so much out there to address COVID-19. But I just wanted to remind you really quickly that Brian has been hard at work. You probably see in it, if you work in the Hope ARC system and place your clients in there, then Brian has been providing court reports. And so all he needs you to do is add him to the case file in Hope ARC, and then also upload the TANF form, and then all of a sudden you automatically get this court report that tells you about the driver control, if they have a suspended license, all these things that that you need to know that can help your families. So this is what a court report kind of looks like. So under the point of contact, a lot of the connection, the multiple entry points for our programs comes from referrals from Department of Children and Family Services. And I just wanted to get an update on what they're seeing. So I don't know, Jerry or Courtney, if y'all want to just kind of update us.
Sorry, I was still on mute.
Yeah, that's okay. That happens all the time.
So what exactly are you needing an update on?
Yeah, what are you seeing as far as children being placed in care? Is there an uptick? Is it how are you handling those kinds of things whenever, since the court systems are closed? We just kind of wanted to hear from you what has changed as far as your child welfare is concerned.
Right. I did notice that, in March we did have quite a number of kids that did come into care. We were able to see a lot of first placements being relatives or fictive kin, which is a good thing. It is hard for placement right now with this COVID-19. But overall, we're making it work. And then with the court system, we're working with our attorneys and with the judges, trying to do more Zoom meetings, still trying to push for adoptions happening through Zoom, just trying to keep things rolling as best we can through technology. The judges all see that we need to keep striving for permanency for the kids in our area. So we're all trying to make it work, and we're adapting pretty well, I believe. It's slowly happening, but it's happening.
Good. Thank you, Courtney. I really, the Jerry Miller, when he put out his, the most recent article on permanency and about, pushing towards that during this time, because family is worth it, and it's not time to just take a back seat and say, oh, we can't do any reunifications or anything like that, but families are worth the continued support and trying to get those reunifications to occur, and of course adoptions whenever those rights have been terminated. So thank you for all you do. I know you all are putting yourselves at risk. You're all on the front lines having to do go to homes and take care of families, and we appreciate what you do.
Yes, thank you. One more thing. I know you mentioned how parents are upset or, sad not to see their kids during this time. Now, most of our stuff has gone to Zoom or some type of FaceTime visitation, especially if the kid has like an underlying condition that may put them at high risk. So we are considering that stuff, but we're also triaging families and foster families to see when we can do in-person visitation still. So it hasn't come to like 100% stop, but we are having to really consider, the safety of the kids on a different level, and hoping to try to do more, contact visitation, because we do think that is greatly important, especially when we're making such progress on a case. It's really hard to just stop visitation altogether in person. That hurts the family completely.
Yes, I agree. Thank you for doing that. And I know it takes a lot of staff time to figure out who can continue visits and who can't, and a lot of contacting. And I know we've been contacted several times. I'm a foster parent as well. So I appreciate what you're doing to try to get the families together. I wanted to also, yeah, Marla? Did you have a question? Okay. So another thing is our stability. So how we are continuing to try to help people with housing and education and transportation and recovery, and all of those things are very important. Marla, do you want to give an update on recovery and what's going on with mental health?
Sure. So we are still seeing clients via telehealth, and that's going really good. We're also trying to work with clients that don't have Wi-Fi access, trying to get them a MiFi, or trying to get them to a location where they can do telehealth. We can, of course, do telephone, but we know that the engagement is better when it's face-to-face. We're still doing groups via telehealth as well. That's going pretty good. What I think our biggest concern, and y'all might be seeing this as well, is that we're having to remind clients that even though there's not court going on, that technically they're still held liable to whatever their DHS contract is. We hear all the time, well, court's not going on, which we're reminding them that they are doing court via telehealth in different ways, but they're thinking since no one's drug testing them, no one's coming to their home, no one's having court, that the accountability is kind of gone. So we're having to really fight to keep them accountable in this recovery, and, keeping them, very engaged in their meetings and their groups and seeing their therapist and doing more check-ins. We're trying to pull other staff to call more often and be more of a peer for these clients as well, to make sure that there is accountability, because they're really trying to throw that out the window on their own. So that's a big concern. I don't know if you guys are seeing that at DHS or anywhere else, but that is a concern. And then just on the regular mental health side, we are seeing a slight uptick in crisis, especially in children. So kids that are at home more now with families. We've had several that are truly even having more homicidal thoughts. They're with family more. So a lot more crisis there. And then, of course, our crisis unit has stayed very busy with adults who are really struggling right now. Major increase in anxious people and depressed people, obviously. But our clients that we see are doing a great job with telehealth. Our therapists are doing a great job of making themselves available. And I think that's all going really well. And I want to give a shout out to Danny Baker. Your Bill Harden is doing an amazing job. Your crisis team is doing awesome. We've been in contact several times this week. And then we've done some communication between him to us to DHS, and really gotten some wraparound services for some families. And that crisis team's amazing.
That's really great to hear. I appreciate that. It was one of the phrases that you just used actually came back to me from one of them. So I knew you'd been talking before you said that. The uptick in crisis, the article in the paper today about the mental health, the state offering more resources and options during COVID-19. I wanted to make sure that they were on top of that and make sure that we were getting folks in contact with these resources. And so what bounced back was that they had been in touch with you, and that's happening. So that's really good to hear. Thank you.
Yes, it's awesome. It's great.
Trudy or Teresa, do you want to tell us about parents on the subject of holding families accountable, and hey, parents can still work towards their case plan even during this time? I know that y'all are making some changes so that they can continue to work towards their parenting classes. You want to tell us about that? I can tell you if you're on mute. I don't know if you know that, but Trudy or anyway, they are starting those to be done as on Zoom as well. So the parenting classes will be able to be attended by parents starting tomorrow, I believe. Is that right?
Yes. The one thing that I want to point out is you can find out information for those parents that are interested. I would suggest that they go to our Facebook page. Trudy and her husband, Stephen, have done an amazing job at organizing the online classes. And for those of you that are not familiar with it, Trudy is our case manager. She's the primary case manager for all of our 100 Families participants, and has continued to work with them. Karen, you probably know even better than I do how much Trudy's been working with all of these different families. So we've gotten some feedback already, just people that are inquiring about the classes since the Facebook post went live. And there are some stipulations. They do have to be able to show their face, so they can't just connect by phone. We have to be able to see their face, and they have to be engaged, and they have to be interacting So we want to just make sure that they continue to do that as though they were still in the class itself. But yeah, we're doing that. Our counselor has transitioned over to telehealth as well. So she's continuing to see Carmela Montgomery is our counselor, and she's continuing to work with our clients as far as, you know, maintaining those mandates, working toward reunification. I think the biggest issue that we have had is that, you know, we had to close the visitation center down, and that was in part to do with the safety, you know, DHS transitioning their visits over to the virtual visits, but also we wanted to make sure that all of our clients were safe. And so that has been, I think, our biggest barrier, is just making sure that parents are still willing to move forward with those virtual visits. Unfortunately, we've seen some parents, as far as our family court cases go, we've seen some parents that have tried to use this as an opportunity to kind of disconnect the kids from the visiting parent. I'm not sure if that's a trend that's happening within the foster families as well. But Karen, the article that you shared and that you referenced before, I thought was very insightful, very compelling, because it talks about the added trauma that's going to come to these kids if they're no longer able to have that interaction with their parents, the anxiety that will be created, the distance that happens. You're regressing in all of that progress that's been made. So if there's anything that we can do at STEPS to help facilitate that in some way, even if it's trying to organize getting, you know, while you were talking earlier, I thought, well, what if we could provide books, you know, or some type of care package that could be from the parent to the child, so that maybe they could both read a book together, the same book, and turn the page together and have that bonding, that interaction together. So anyway, anything that we can do to help. But yeah, Trudy and Stephen are going to be doing the classes tomorrow. Is that right, Trudy?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes, it is.
So just be sure to check out our Facebook page to see what steps the clients need to take in order to attend those classes. I believe that there is a limit for each class that's conducted. Trudy, what is that limit? Do you know?
We set it at 15.
Okay. But I think they were willing to do multiple classes if necessary.
Great. I think just getting the word out is the biggest thing, and making sure that they have the technology to do it. But yeah, I'll definitely be, so everybody, Hamilton House, all of you that are case managing our parents, if you would let people know, make sure they know that there's opportunities to still move their case plan forward. And this isn't just a time to sit back and do nothing. And speaking of that, education is a big piece, because those that are not reunited with their kids right now probably do have some time. And so I know that, you know, there's not as Heather, what are y'all doing over at Literacy Council? Is there anything we can refer people to there?
We are right now in the process of contacting. We had 65 active students when we took everything virtual, and that's a big process for us. So right now we're contacting each of our students directly and adjusting their learning plan accordingly. We have not had any new intake since March. We are willing to do intakes. We do have somebody coming in the office 9 to 1 Monday through Thursday who can answer phones. But we can facilitate intakes if we need to, or we can help other organizations If there are ways that people need things like understanding a lot of the information that's coming out. Reading comprehension is an issue for a lot of people. So we can help that, even if they're not a regular student of ours. And there are ways that we can get creative. We can help people fill out forms. And there are a variety of ways that we can do that. We can help parents that are working with AMI packets.
That's great.
So yeah, there are a lot of things that we can do kind of outside of what people typically assume that we do.
Yeah. I'm really hoping I can get some to contact you about they've not been able to pass their driver's test, and that's something that they need to continue to work on. I have a particular parent that's their only barrier right now, really, is being able to drive.
Yeah, let us know what we can help with.
Okay. And then Kendall, I know you are finishing up a class of Future Fit, and we just love Future Fit. I think it has a whole lot of potential, and we've seen what it can do for our families to move them from crisis to career. And what can you tell us about the future of Future Fit and how things are going?
Sure. I think the results are kind of mixed at this point. In late March, we had to move to completely online. And so fortunately, we had finished all of the hands-on training, which was great. And so at that point, we were teaching soft skills, essential skills, leadership, conflict resolution, and things of that nature. So we had about 11 participating. That number, when we went online, dropped significantly to about 6. And we had last, I don't even know what day it is. It's Friday, isn't it? On Wednesday, we had 4 that completed all of the training and have, in essence, graduated, although we won't have a ceremony for a while, I'm sure. But of those 4 that have graduated, 1 has found a job. He's making $22 an hour, which is just fantastic. He had a great background in electrical, and so we're real fortunate that he found a great job at Calvert McBride. The other 3 we're working to try to help find employment for. Of course, right now the most manufacturers are not hiring. Most of those have suspended hiring at this point. So we have them kind of in waiting mode, trying to find them some employment. And then the other ones that are not engaged with us very well, we're trying to reach out to them and help them just complete the program. We've got it set up so that they can complete it online, fully online. All they have to do is log on and take the training and take care of that. But unfortunately, we've just lost that connection when we went online with many of these students.
Yeah, I know I have encouraged the ones that are working through 100 Families to finish, and that it's very important. I think that they're probably feeling discouraged because of the fact that they don't know that they'll get employment as a result of, especially right now. And sadly, a lot of our families are very, if I can't get it now, then I'm, why work for it, But we are definitely trying to encourage them as much as possible. I've asked STEPS to encourage their families in the 100 Family Initiative to finish strong. And then what about next class? Any idea? You're on mute.
I have to push the space bar, don't I?
Yeah.
So as of yesterday, or perhaps Wednesday, the University of Arkansas Fort Smith has canceled all in-person classes through the summer. So our rules of engagement are going to be no in-class training until after the second summer session. So we're looking at middle of August, probably before we start another class. And we've not really had this discussion, but this class is probably not going to do well online. It's primarily hands-on training. We've discussed some possibilities of being able to move it all online, but there's so much hands-on training that's involved with the mechanics of this that it's almost an impossibility. So I'm assuming that we're probably going to start the next class the middle of August or early September.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. And we'll continue to try to help people to understand that that's an option. And then also just, wow. Okay. Does
Karen,
any,
could I ask Kendall a question?
yeah.
Is there a intermediary certificate of some kind of completion that we could give to the online part that might allow them to at least feel like they can engage with an employer on a you know, a reduced level? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, Charlotte. What we're doing is we are working with a company called Identify, and they're providing for them smart resumes, which are online resumes. And what we're doing on those smart resumes is we're putting a notification that they are in the process of completing Future Fit training, and they will finish that at a later date. That's our plan. We're going to keep this available to them because most of them have finished all the hands-on skills. All they need to do is go online and take care of that. And so that way we at least see that they are in the process of finishing it.
That's great. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or anybody that wants to provide an update about what is going on in your world that could help families move towards stability, strengthen them in this time? Yes, Chief Baker.
Well, not so much as an update as maybe a plea for help.
Okay.
We knew this was going to happen, and the longer it plays out, the more of a problem it's going to be. But our domestic disturbances are climbing through the roof, and they're becoming more violent. And obviously with the challenges and with COVID-19, the ability to, you know, get face-to-face time with victims and, you know, providing that focused attention that we can to help that process. I'm kind of at a loss. I'm looking for options. I'm looking for suggestions on what we can do to help alleviate this issue. We've done social media, we've put things out, but this is really becoming a problem. It's going to get worse.
Yeah. Hamilton House, are you on? Can you address maybe some of the things you could do to help with the domestic abuse? Maybe if Chief Baker can and his staff could get people to come to or have some sort of, you know, domestic abuse training, how to parent without violence, all those things that you do. Are you on still? Kim, Rebecca, Jackie? I guess not. Well, we can talk to them about, I see you're still on here. Oh, well, you're on mute if you're trying to talk.
Karen, does Baker know of some best practices that some other police departments are using? I have some resources in the domestic violence area statewide and could maybe reach out and find some best practices unless he knows of something and maybe kickstart something. I don't know what it would be, but if he has some suggestions, I'd be glad to work on some resources.
I think we're just going to have to, we're really going to have to push the communication about it, especially to the folks that we have contact with, and look for signs of abuse and head it off before it turns into something, you know, very serious. I know just just in the last week, the same day actually. I believe we had one victim that was essentially pistol whipped during a domestic situation, and then in another one we had someone who was cut with a knife. So, but, I mean, we knew this was going to happen, but I don't know that anybody has any real solutions for what we can do during this time. We have lots of things in place normally. I've assigned 2 detectives. We're back to the point in the police department where I have, dedicated 2 investigators to do nothing but family violence. That's their sole job. But again, right now with the COVID-19, the distancing restrictions, and being able to sit down with these folks and provide them with the focused attention that they need is a little bit challenging. So just thinking out loud here, I'm thinking communication and talking about this as much as possible. It doesn't seem to be getting the attention that it needs, I guess.
Yeah.
We're so good at talking about social distancing. We're good at talking about washing your hands and all those other things, but I don't see anybody really talking about, what we can do to make sure that we don't escalate things to the point when we're in this closed environment and people are, have been cooped up for a long time. And a lot of times you're adding alcohol and drugs to the mix. I mean, now we've got liquor stores that are delivering the alcohol to the houses. So a lot of challenges there, but maybe that's the answer. Maybe we just need to start talking about it more so there's more awareness about it.
Mm-hmm. That I did not tell you, Chief Baker, but within my survey, I gave the number to call for Crisis Intervention Center if they are being abused. So a lot of times it's not necessarily the dads that are filling out my survey, it's the moms that are filling out my survey. And so I specifically asked, I said, hey, if you're being abused or you are afraid in this situation, please, let me know, reach out to somebody. You don't have to be in that situation. And then I also gave them the 800 number to call if they wanted to just talk to somebody. So I agree that we have to continue to, because a lot of times they're not going to tell us. They're scared that we're going to, call DHS or maybe they're just scared for their livelihood in some way that they're not going to get, be able to support their family.
Karen, one more thing that is being done that could possibly help is that the Department of Education is going to start some education through all of the K-12 that's going out to all the kids through their lessons on abuse, child abuse. And some of that trauma-informed information that they're going to get out to the kids in these lessons will filter through to the parents. So it might be that we could reach out to the ADE and kind of make sure, kind of tell them what our problem is with parents. And I don't know, there could be some tweaking there because that is going out to every household that has kids. So I can do some more research on that, Chief, and maybe get back to you with what they're going to deliver to the kids and see if you had some ideas on that.
Anything we can do to help lower the stress, and I know that really is the core issue.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to come up with some innovative ways to go to people where they are without compromising officer safety and violating the social distancing guidelines and that sort of thing. But hopefully there's members of the media that are with us today and they'll pick up on this, because it's not just Fort Smith. I mean, it's across the nation. The International Association of Chiefs of Police, their article yesterday was that was the top of the list, the rise in domestic violence. And we at the police department here knew, that was part of our action plan before COVID even came to Arkansas. We knew that we were going to have to be dealing with this. And so now it's here, and I'm open to any and all suggestions that anybody might have. Send them my way, and if we can do it, we will certainly make it happen.
Yeah. That's kind of been our approach as well, is how can we reduce stress in these families? And that's why the other day we did this, give the children some activities to do, so that they're not, just constantly, begging for something to do, and giving our parents such high levels of stress. I mean, we all feel it. So I can imagine that add drugs or alcohol to the situation, and it's a nightmare. But our approach has been, how can we relieve stress? And we did that in part. I know it seems kind of silly even, but it was, we delivered the activities, we delivered things like that, but we also delivered a pizza. We thought, if people just know, hey, your community cares, they love you, let's deliver all these protective services cases. It was only protective services cases that got them, or cases that were preventative. Delivered them all a pizza and just said, hey, we love you, we care about you, and hey, don't make lunch today. Relieve a little bit of stress. But I know that there's so much more we can do as we look at families in poverty, and how we support them and help them to not break during this very, very important time, and to know that, hey, it's eventually going to be found out. If you're doing wrong, you're going to end up, paying the price eventually, and you've got to control your temper at this time. So, anyone else? That was a really good point, Chief. Thank you for bringing that up. It's very important. And I also asked in the survey, and didn't put it on here, is if they needed mental health assistance. So I specifically asked that. I said, do you want to talk to a counselor? I even said, do you want a pastor to call you? Because if, maybe they think that they don't want to talk to a, professional mental health counselor. Maybe they just want to talk to a pastor. Maybe they just have a prayer request, something like that. So I asked all of those questions, and we did get some responses, and we've referred those appropriately. And then, but for the most part, everybody said, I'm okay right now. My stress level is high, but other than that, so I don't know. We just do need to continue to reach out. Anyone else have any things they want to bring up about our families or your programs? Okay. Well, you know what? It's been a rough couple of weeks, and I just know that right around the corner there's going to be some good things that come out of all of this, and on this Good Friday I just celebrate the fact, and hey, we're all going to be celebrating, or a lot of us, on Sunday, and we're all looking forward to Sunday coming, because just our remembrance of how quickly things can turn out better. Paul, do you have any parting words?
I don't, but except that this group is, we operate in several areas of the state. We try to look for things that are going well, and certainly there are many communities in Arkansas that are supporting clients in their city, but this group is really special. The way the partnership here, and the way that that you all try to come up with these solutions. So, like Karen said, we all hope that we come out of this thing sooner rather than later. But it's really a privilege to be able to work with you all. So thanks.
Y'all have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.